but I'm still never willing to sacrifice or compromise on the quality and to take my time. Someone else's urgency is not my urgency. As I've continued to say to myself, and whatever I'm going through, my faith is greater than my fear. I believe in myself.
You're going global.
How can we not?
I mean, how can you not? Oh, love, you have big ambitions for As Ever.
I do.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
Hey y'all, thank you so much for clicking on my video, and if you're returning, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, and her sit down with Emma Grede for the Aspire with Emma Grede podcast. Now before we even say another word, I have to talk to y'all about the title of this episode, Why Ambition is Her Jam. Now, first of all, I love that ambition is in the title of Meghan's episode. If you know, you know. And I love, of course, that the jam is a pun. How cute. I love little things like that. I love those little extra details, or the jimmies, as they said on Girlfriends. It was an hour and a half long with a few mid-roll commercials and mid-roll ads. So it was nearly an hour and a half long. I recommend going and watching the entire interview in full. It was so good from start to finish. It was funny. It was insightful. There were so many takeaways. So if you have not seen the entire interview, you will not be seeing that here. I had some questions over previous recaps of people saying you need to play the interview. No, that's stealing somebody's content. I can talk about it and I'll recap it with my key takeaways, but I recommend going and watching the entire interview in full, and it's linked in the description box below. Or if you want to wait until the end of my really quick recap, you can watch it at the end of the suggested video. It'll pop up on the screen. Now, as you can see, I am in my room. Usually I'm in my office, but I did not want to waste another day. I had to come on camera to say hey to some folks. I've been missing y'all, and some of y'all have expressed wanting to make sure I'm alive and that it's really me. Y'all had me cracking up in those comments. So we've got a lot to talk about. As you can see, it's me. Thank God I made it out of surgery. I am not a bot. It's me. And I'm so excited to talk to you guys about my key takeaways from this incredible interview. Emma Grede is an excellent host. I'm very impressed. One of the things that I love most about her hosting is how she allowed Meghan to speak. So many people kind of cut in a lot, and Emma Grede did cut in a couple of times, but for the most part, she let Meghan speak, and we got to hear her thoughts fully realized, and she wasn't just reduced to a couple of sound bites or having to rush or pace herself quickly so that they could go back and ping pong. It was really nice to just kind of have an easeful conversation, and as a host, Emma Grede did a wonderful job of giving Meghan the space to speak at her pace, and that's not always the case, so that's something that I did appreciate a lot from this interview. There were a lot of other things that I wanted to talk about, but before we get into those things, if you haven't already, please don't forget to go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and please don't forget to share so that more people can find us.
What do I want to share? You know, truth be told, I had just been making a lot of jams and preserves at home and sharing them as holiday gifts with a lot of friends. So many friends at the same time had texted, I don't know what it is, but your jams just make me so happy. It was probably more obvious to a lot of people that I would get into fashion or beauty. That's not what I was sitting around doing every day. And so my real passion was in this way of sharing. And I love being in the kitchen. I've always loved cooking. We've been in partnership with Netflix for 5 years already. My husband and I. So there's familiarity and there's comfort. And while that was just on the content side, not on the commerce side, these are relationships and friendships now.
So first we have to talk about Meghan discussing As Ever. Before she even said a word about what it means to her or how impactful it has been to work on this, before she even got into the details and the mechanics of the partnership, the deal, the offers, what have you, you could hear her passion in the product. You could hear that everything in this product line, everything in this brand means something to her. And even in the things that maybe didn't test so well with focus groups, etc., you could hear the disappointment, but you could also recognize the intent behind it and the pivot immediately thereafter. All of these are the makings of great business and great products. So it matters to me to hear somebody talk about something that matters to them.
You know, it was only for me sending her fruit baskets and jams and whatnot that she said, this is a show.
This is good
stuff.
To
do a show.
That energy It jumps off the screen. It jumps off the page. When somebody is truly invested in something that brings them passion and they want to share that with the world, it's palpable. And they transfer that positive energy on to everybody who touches everything related to that, whether it's the package, whether it's the stamp. I'm a firm believer that everybody can feel what you put into a thing. It's kind of one of those reasons why I don't eat food from mad people. If you're mad when you're cooking, or if you're sad when you're cooking, you're not cooking for me. Because no. And I'm the same way. If I'm not feeling it, I'm just gonna order out. I'm just gonna be like, you know what? No, I'm not even gonna do that to this household, because you can feel the energy that people put into things, especially consumable products. And so being that this is her jam, all of that positive energy you can feel. And apparently, according to some of y'all who've done the taste test and the blind testers, you can taste it too. I'm unfortunately not part of that number yet, but I plan to be, because y'all were 45 minutes faster than me. But you won't catch me on June 20th, I tell you what. And something else that she discussed was the natural assumption was that she was going to go into fashion or beauty. I'm one of the people who thought that. I'm not afraid to admit when I was wrong. I genuinely thought if she comes out with a product or a service or what have you, it will be pertaining to beauty or fashion. But what felt natural to Meghan was doing what she did every day, which was sending people home with baskets and food and taking care of people and hosting and working in her garden and making food for people and sending them home with jars of jam and preserves, i.e. consumable goods and lifestyle content. It makes perfect sense, and it was in perfect alignment with where she was in her life and what was bringing her joy, i.e. the positive energy she's pouring into it. If that's what she's passionate about and that's what she wants to work on, then that's what resonates. And boy, did it resonate. For 45 whole minutes, y'all snatched everything that resonates right out from under me. Yeah, I'm bitter. And yeah, I am taking it personally. But it also pointed out kind of what is missing in a lot, not all, but a lot of brands that are created or pushed by celebrities. And I typically don't trust brands that are pushed by celebrities if they didn't have involvement in the creation of it, because I always wondered, like, what tied you to it? Well, I want all of them to pull out their notebooks and I want them to watch this interview, because this is what passion looks like, especially when it's real. Meghan was super excited about this. She's clearly excited about not only what she's already offering from As Ever, but what's yet to come. She clearly has a lot of little secrets and little surprises that are coming down the pipeline. That gets everybody excited. It's no wonder why her support system and her fan base and the people who follow her and her customers now, it's so cool to call like us, her fans, her customers now. We're along for the ride, Meg. But it's great to see her customers riding with her, but it makes sense why we do. It's because if you don't believe in it, why would we? But on the contrary, since you believe in it, we definitely will, because clearly she's not into just pushing any old thing on us. As a matter of fact, in the interview, she said she's, backed away or said no to a number of things that had money on the table because it wasn't aligned with her values. I respect that so much, especially as a content creator. All the brand deals that come your way, when you are the type of person to operate with integrity, no amount of money is going to sway you. I'm of that belief. Because money can always be made. It's going to come. It came that time, it'll come again. But when you have a relationship, a real relationship with your fan base and your support system, and the people who support you, trust you, or they at least think highly enough of you to enjoy your content, why would you destroy that relationship for a quick cash grab when you could just go get a part-time job if it's that deep? It was great to hear her talk about that. I'm a person who consumes a lot of business content in books and movies and shows and interviews, etc. I really like just business in general. And as somebody who's an entrepreneur, I consume a lot because you learn a lot. Something I don't hear enough about is value alignment and people having values in general or operating with integrity. It's almost used as like a punchline for a lot of people. It's like integrity, character, that's what sells your product. It's like, no, integrity, character, that's who you are. That's the spirit and the value behind the service or product, right? 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 I can't tell you how many times I've side-eyed people that I was watching or listening to, and I'm like, that's quite the attitude to take to a business, considering your customers are probably watching this. Okay. It was great and refreshing to hear Meghan speak about values and value alignment and what's actually important and what's real, not just business, as it pertains to business. It was really nice that she continues to say, I'm going to be who I am. I'm going to show up the way I want to show up, no matter the environment. She's a dolphin, not a shark. And that was never more present, or that was never more obvious than in this moment when she was talking about As Ever. Another part of this part of the interview that she got into was the deal with Netflix. And she says that Netflix had already been making products in alignment with other shows. However, those shows were already in existence. And in regards to the deal with Meghan, her brand was not established yet. Now, that's great that she had a big partner and a lot behind her, a machine behind her. That's wonderful. But she describes as a founder and a new founder for this particular brand, having that partnership so early on, and of course, having as much visibility as she has, she wasn't able to kind of go into a corner and develop in peace and quiet or in private like a lot of founders are when their businesses are at that very early stage. But something about that is just so funny because as she describes it, she was flying the plane as it was being built. And when you can navigate things like that and experiences like that, you're unstoppable. It's not ideal, but boy, did it pay off. Now, I'm sure there was a much easier or easeful way they could have gone about it, sure. But the fact that she was able to adjust so quickly, pivot, and just get right on it, good for her. She's an excellent businesswoman. A lot of people struggle with flexibility, especially in that early phase, especially when you're committed to what you want your brand or your product to look like. And when you're in the early phase, you're not getting a lot of pushback because there isn't a lot of interaction yet. And so when you're developing your brand or developing your business, a lot of it is, it's going to look like what you want it to look like. And as you develop, it's going to change. It seems like she's had a lot of involvement from Netflix. As she said, they were already partners for 5 years. They've already had their deal for 5 years, but this deal was new. This was not only new for them, but this was a new type of deal for Netflix. And she talks about how they navigated that very well. Even though there is a machine behind her, they very much still respect and understand her vision. Not only that, but I thought it was interesting the way she discusses being an actress before and having to hear so many no's so often. It prepared her. And I don't find it to be a coincidence that she handled that type of rejection or just that part of the process of being an actor or an actress. I am not surprised she handled that with so much grace. And now when she has to pivot or be flexible, she just moves on to the next step. She lives through it and she moves through it. And that's really all you can do. So hearing her talk about As Ever was probably my favorite part of the interview. And thankfully it was peppered in throughout the interview. It wasn't all in one section. I'm kind of compiling it into this part of my recap all together. But throughout the interview, they continue to come back to As Ever, and there's so many gems that both of them dropped. If you have not watched the entire interview in full, please do so. You will be missing out if you only listen to Raggedy Me recap a couple of points about it.
I think that I've always had a very entrepreneurial spirit, as we talked about, but equally, I enjoy being in a position of having a strong team around me, being able to help guide that team as a whole. I have certainly navigated through things that can in some ways feel bigger.
Next, I have to get into the conversation surrounding imposter syndrome. We're never going to escape this, I'm afraid. Anytime a woman is interviewed, especially about business or corporate America or entrepreneurship or being a founder, they're going to ask her about imposter syndrome. It's just part of it, I guess. Y'all have heard me talk about this on the SharionSade podcast a couple of times. It's kind of come up where I'm like, we don't always have to ask women this question. And I cannot tell you how pleased I was with Meghan's answer. Now, Meghan gave a very clear, succinct, and direct no. She does not. And I cannot tell you how much I love that.
Overwhelmed by how big the opportunity is and then, pedal back from anything that might be.
I don't.
Now, that's not always the case for a lot of people, though. There are a lot of people who've accomplished a ton. And when they turn around, they're still like, did I really do that? Or was that just a stroke of luck? But from Psychology Today, the definition reads, people who struggle with imposter syndrome often believe that they are undeserving of their achievements and the high esteem in which they are, in fact, generally held. They feel that they aren't as competent or intelligent as others might think, and that soon enough, people will discover the truth about them. Those with imposter syndrome, which is not an actual or official diagnosis, are often well accomplished. They may hold high office or have numerous academic degrees. A lot of times they feel like they accomplish this by either having good favor, being in good standing with really good people and decision makers. And so they were given a shot. A lot of times they feel like, oh, maybe I just won out in that interview and I got that job because I really interviewed well. And it's like, no, but you also had a resume. And that resume also has things on it that you also did and that you're also capable of doing, but also repeating. And then doing at a higher level and continuing to do. There's a lot of things that go into imposter syndrome. And one of the things that I try not to do is vilify people or condemn people who feel that way. There are a lot of people who experience imposter syndrome. I'm one of those people who've had that experience. My first management role, I got a really cool management role straight out of being a receptionist. So I didn't really have that middle ground experience that a lot of people have. Sometimes people get promoted from being at the front to being in the back or working back of house, and then they get promoted to a management or supervisor role, and then they get the management supervisor role, and then they're over the department or what have you. And I went straight from being a receptionist at one company to being a department head and manager at another company to being a general manager. And that change in quick succession of 3 years scared the shit out of me. Therapy helps with this. Therapy really helps you to face yourself in a very real way. And when you do that, you can see yourself. You can see what you're capable of. You can see what you've done and what you plan to do. And you learn to trust yourself a lot more. I will say for me, I moved through the process of trusting myself more. I no longer experienced imposter syndrome. When I saw myself as capable and capable at the drop of a hat, when I realized like no matter what people throw at me, I'm capable and I have everything in my arsenal already to respond to this. I no longer had that feeling. And it took a while, but it was a process. And I'll say I felt that way for about a good year after becoming GM. Then I was fine. So I share that to say there are ways to overcome or work through imposter syndrome. It doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't mean anything's wrong with you. It's not even an official diagnosis, but it is something people experience. And there are a lot of misconceptions about it and why it occurs. And I just want you to know it's not the boogeyman. It happens, but it doesn't happen to everyone. And it doesn't happen to every woman. I would love if we could cycle through other types of questions that maybe address women in leadership and some of the unique adjustments that we have and some of the unique experiences that we face outside of imposter syndrome. I just feel like that conversation's been had a lot. But I was very pleased with Meghan's answer. No, she trusts the team that she's built. She trusts herself. She trusts her partnerships. Why would she worry? Why would she feel that way? But you're also asking this of a woman who's 43 years old. And age, I mean, imposter syndrome doesn't have an age, but Meghan is 43 years old. She has lived 43 years and accomplished a lot in only 43 years. She has accomplished so much. Her resume is long. Do y'all remember in Spare when Harry met her in her mid-30s and was like, her CV was dizzying? Yes, because she's accomplished a lot. So I would assume by this point in her life, she's proven herself to herself more times than enough. And she's able to just say, well, what would scare you about this moment? Do you remember that moment or that one? Or what about that one back there? And sometimes getting in tune with ourselves will have that benefit, is the self-doubt dissipates as we learn to trust ourselves. And when we've been in the world too long, it'll tell you who you are. But when you spend some time alone and you get a little introspective, you'll remember who you are. And that's the best version of you. And clearly Meghan has done a lot of inner work. And she's always seemed really in tune with her authentic self. And her mom seems the same way. They give the vibe that all this other stuff is great. All the pomp and circumstance, that's cute. That's what you want to do. But I'm always going to be who I am. And I think Meghan made that clear on a number of occasions. And there is nothing to fear, or there is no imposter there if you've always been operating in your truth. I mean, people have been mad at her for operating in her truth for a long time, but look at how settled she is. I would do whatever it takes to have that kind of confidence and that kind of glow. No matter what, no matter who I have to come up against, I would do whatever it takes to have that kind of confidence and glow that Meghan has, rather than standing on a balcony looking half dead just so people give me a thumbs up. And I'm not talking about anybody in particular. I'm just saying I would rather be good with me rather than good with theatrics for other people's validation. It's just not worth it. Look at the peace that this woman has, just simply trusting and loving herself the right way. I think if we want to talk about anything, I think that's what we should be talking to, not just women, but other people who are founders and entrepreneurs or in positions of leadership. We need to talk to them about how do you stay true to yourself in the face of, one, affecting so many lives with your employment or your job or your position, but then two, in the face of so many different offers or so many different opportunities to excel when it might compromise your values. How do you stay true to yourself? What is some advice you can give to people who are coming up in the world who might be tasked with making those decisions, those kind of moral decisions? How do you stay true to yourself when the offer is so tempting, or when the validation of others is so tempting? How do you stay connected with you? Now, that is something I would love to hear from more people who value their value system and who put that at the forefront of everything they do, like Meghan and Harry.
Yeah, You're the next Martha Stewart. You're the next Gwyneth Paltrow. So how do you feel about it?
I think that's very flattering. Those are incredibly successful businesswomen. So I don't take that lightly. That means a lot. I feel flattered by the comparisons, and I feel excited that I'm sharing things that are important to me and how I would do things in my own home, and that I hope people translate that to theirs as well.
This is how you answered that question. Whether you like the brand you're being compared to, whether you like the person you're being compared to, whether you've ever even experienced the brand or the person or what have you, no matter your personal feelings on the other brand that you're being compared to, you show respect and you give a nice answer. This is how you answer that question. So now we have an example of what to say or how to say it when people ask about comparisons such as this. Because when I was discussing how other people who were asked about Meghan's brand in comparison to their own, how their answer left a lot to be desired, and how their middle ground and middle of the road answer and lack of any kind of kindness or any kind of positive energy or just a lot of aloofness led to people making the assumptions that they were being shady. That is why she didn't indulge the comparison at all. As a matter of fact, when compared to them, she gave them a lot of respect. Her measured and respectful response was all I cared about. Because at the end of the day, when you are compared to another brand or a person, if they're not the one doing the comparison, why put them down? Or why even leave it anything to the imagination? I love how, as always, she's a class act, and she gave a nice, polite, but also very kind and very respectful answer. And that's all I was asking for in the beginning. Now, I caught a lot of heat from people saying, you're trying to drum up drama between her and somebody else. No, but I did say that somebody else has been a celebrity for a very long time and is used to people asking them questions off the cuff. And they were, of course, prepared for this question. And that was all they came with. They left a lot to be desired, and they are the reason. And their lack of any kind of kindness or politeness left a lot of room for a lot of assumptions. And I still don't fully trust that that was an accident. I feel like there was a lot of aloofness there and a lot of ambiguity for a reason. So people would run away with it. What they weren't expecting was backlash. And so I still credit y'all with getting in that ass because one, we got a cute video out of it. But two, I hope that puts everybody on notice, and not just everybody who's a celebrity, but people in general, there is a right way and a wrong way to do things. Now, there's your way, but I hope your way aligns with doing things in the right way. People have enough going on. Nobody has time to be getting subtle shade from people, especially when you aren't even on my radar. I'm doing something that's true to me and something I enjoy and something I've always wanted to do, and you don't own the space. There's 1,000,001 ways to do the same thing or the same type of thing. And at the time, we didn't even have the full gamut of what Meghan was even doing. We just had an idea, and we had the show, some episodes of the show, and people made assumptions and took those assumptions and ran with them. And I think a lot of people got a little uncomfortable. And I'll just say that. And so it was nice to see that rectified. But this answer that she gave was a wonderful example of what I mean when I say speaking with intention. She didn't leave any room for people to take her words and be like, I felt like she really don't like them. No, she said what she meant. This is how you embody being an empowered woman who empowers women, but not just women. She empowers other people. I love the way she answered this question. I love that she said it's flattering to be compared to both Martha Stewart and Gwyneth Paltrow and their brands. She said they're excellent businesswomen, and she knows she wants things to reflect her and her brand. And she went on to talk about what mattered to her as she poured into her brand. Not only is this excellent marketing, not only is this excellent PR, but it was honest and genuine. And the passion behind her brand was palpable. We didn't spend time thinking about, they're at this price point and I'm at this price point. No, she just said, this is the price point that I wanted to put my products at because this is what's real to me. That is why this brand is not only successful already, but this is why it's going to continue to be successful and continue to scale. It's because Meghan is putting herself behind it. We don't have enough genuine things in this world. We don't have enough authenticity in this world. Even Emma Grede said people are at a point where we just want authenticity. Yeah, because at the moment, we are just always being manipulated. There's always the smoke and mirrors. You know how people have been dissecting the fall of a certain family, which is so funny. I'm talking about that when it comes to this podcast, but people have been dissecting the fall of a certain family because at one point they were the most influential family in pop culture at the moment. And then they just completely damn near fell off the face of the earth. Even with several shows and all kinds of stuff, people just aren't interested. And even when they've done things to get back in headlines, people have just tuned out. And I think it's because Everyone is just ready for a deeper connection. I think people have gotten past the celebrity worship era and people want something real and people want something deeper.
And have you even let your mind go there?
I do not think about failing. No. Is anything actually a failure? Because you're going to learn from it no matter what happens. But no, I feel confident in what I've been dreaming up for so long. I feel confident in the partner that I have. And I feel really proud of the team that I have. That's not an option.
I really loved the way that Meghan answered this question as well, that she does not fear failure. She gets scared, but she doesn't fear failure. She doesn't think about failure at all. Now, again, shout out to Neville Goddard. If you sit around and you harp on something, that's exactly what you're going to manifest. So I love that Meghan is very clear about her intentions. She's very clear about what she will have, not what she wants, but what will occur for her. I told y'all, we've talked about the woo-woo aspect of some of the things that we've seen Meghan wear and some of the things we've seen her say or we've heard her say. And this is just one of those times, like, you can't sit around harping on something you don't want to happen and then be surprised when it happens. You have to talk about, you have to think about, you have to embody what you do want to happen. You have to recognize that it's already yours. It's just yours to go get. Now go get it. It's already there. And I really enjoyed how confident she was when she answered this question. She just doesn't sit around thinking about failure. Again, I think we need more of this. We need more of this kind of honesty, but we also need more of this type of confidence. We don't hear a lot of people simply say, I'm not scared of failure. That doesn't mean I don't have fears, but failure just isn't one of them. I'm not sitting around thinking about failure. And I think a lot of that has to do with what she later explained was her view on failure, which I fully agree with, which was even when you fail, you learn something. So you're never really losing. You're never really failing. You're always gaining. Whether you failed in one aspect, but you gained the knowledge. You won't make that mistake again. Apply it and keep it moving. Once you stop and just cry over spilled milk, you're not going and getting your Bounty to clean that up or your Swiffer Wet Jet to clean that up. You're crying over it. So you're prolonging the misery and the issue without fixing it, pivoting, and moving forward, because now you don't have a cold glass of milk because you're still crying over what you spilled. Now, anyway, don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But no, I really enjoyed how she answered this question, and I enjoyed the level of confidence that she brought to this interview. I want to see more people, women, etc., move forward, especially when it comes to business with this assertive energy. I really like it, and I respect it.
Because I wonder if you could rewrite your public narrative from scratch. Is there anything that you would do differently?
Yes, I would ask people to tell the truth.
I really like this question. I've never heard anyone ask this in an interview. But Emma Grede asks, how would you rewrite your public narrative if you could? And Meghan says that she would tell people to tell the truth. I loved that answer. But this question actually reminded me of one of my top 5 Beyonce songs of all time, Bigger. And there's a lyric in that song that says, life is your birthright. They hid that in the fine print. Take the pen and rewrite it.
Life is your birthright. They hit that in the fine print. Take the pen and rewrite it.
But I love that whole song. But that part it always sticks out to me because you do not have to live by the rules or the story or the narrative that anyone set before you or anyone cast upon you. You can go be everything you want to be, everything you deserve to be. Just go be that. Let them think, feel, say whatever they want to think, feel, and say. But what matters most is living in your truth. And I love that Meghan's response to that was, if I could do anything different regarding my public narrative, is I would tell people to tell the truth. Yes, ma'am. And what's even crazier and really messed up is that a lot of people could fall under that umbrella. There are a lot of people who she could have said that to, and it would have made complete sense. Y'all were showing y'all's asses when it came to this lady. And yesterday I made a comment about how so many keyboard warriors who attack Meghan online are simply doing it for clicks, for money, etc. And when I talk about those people, I'm not talking about the extremists who were actually trying to bring harm on her, because they really were in danger. We have 14 videos talking about their safety and how the online behavior and inciting hate online translates to the real world. But I'm talking specifically about the trolls who are just trolls for trolling's sake. There are very real consequences to that, which we have covered 1,000,001 times, and I'm never going to let up off y'all's asses because you're wrong as the day is long. But also, those same trolls, should they ever meet Meghan, just like I said yesterday, they just wanted her attention. Because when Meghan goes places, people fall all over themselves. None of that hate that you see. Oh, we can't stand her. Is that why you were rushing to buy her clothes? Because you're probably the first one on the site. Her real fans be trying to get stuff that she has, and the trolls are the first ones to buy it up. And a lot of those people just want her attention. A lot of those people are dealing with their own insecurities, and they projected that on her. And sometimes people just cannot take greatness. Sometimes people cannot deal with greatness. Now, there are extremists. There are a lot of extremists who would do very harmful things, and perpetuating that hate, whether it's for clicks, whether it's for attention, whether it's because your own insecurities, perpetuating that perpetuates actual danger that could befall her, which I said yesterday. But as far as the masses disliking Meghan, like the internet wants y'all to believe, no. Those trolls and those extremists are the minority. There's a lot of them, but they're a minority. But the majority of the world absolutely adores this woman. And as they should. Which is why we're seeing a lot more people feel courageous enough and brave enough to step up and defend her when those people and those broadcasters and whomever else decide to start trolling. But what gets me is you can troll all you want. I mean, I get trolled sometimes. I got trolled yesterday and I was like, damn, I barely post because I've been in recovery and I'm already getting bothered. It happens. It's messed up, but it happens. I mean, people are really bored. Out of everybody to troll, why did you bother me? It's not gonna go far. We're gonna delete your comment, and then you did all that typing for nothing. But as far as trolls are concerned, yes, they're already miserable, but that's not enough. I want real consequences. I think internet trolls should face real consequences because you're actually affecting people in a real way. And I understand, and I'm one of the people who recognize that a lot of that is due to insecurity, and a lot of that is due to a lot of people who hate others. It's just misplaced affection. I really like this person, but I'm jealous, and the jealousy is overriding it, or I'm biased, and the bias is overriding it, or I really want to make this money in this clickbait. Because you cannot convince me that you would create an entire channel or podcast or show or segment about a person that you genuinely dislike or don't see as an impactful person, who wastes their time talking about someone who doesn't matter. So every time those people come with the narrative of she's irrelevant, if she's irrelevant and you're spending your time and your platform talking about her, what does that make you? Because at some point you recognize what you build is what you will have to sustain. Sustaining hate for long periods of time, trust and believe, Meghan is going to process whatever effect that has on her, whether she has it or not. She probably don't even know you exist. But regardless of the effect that it has on her, which is still messed up, you are the person who has to carry on all that venom. You are the person who has to continue to feed the snakes and the trolls that found their way to your channel, that found their way to your podcast. You're going to have to continue to feed those trolls. You will have to continue to produce hate. Is the click really worth it? You have to hate yourself in order to perpetuate hate, because in order to perpetuate it, it's got to be cooking up somewhere. Somebody's stirring that cauldron, and that's happening right inside of you. And in all that time, you're stirring that cauldron and look at somebody else. You could just be looking at yourself and making the improvements that you know you need to make, but that you're avoiding. Hating Meghan isn't going to change that. For me, it's always been a litmus test. For people who dislike her, it's always been one of those things where I'm like, thank you for letting me know you were a piece of shit. I love that she was very clear that if she could do anything different, she would ask for more truth. And I don't even feel like that's something she should have to ask. If somebody has to ask you to tell the truth about them when you speak about them, you are the one in the wrong. You have a real problem, a real accountability issue. Pathetic. Anywho, I was really glad that she talked about that and the value of just being genuine and establishing boundaries and learning to say no. I also love the advice that she shared from Serena Williams that says, a lie can't live forever. A truth will always outlive a lie. People will forget a lie. There'll be key elements to that lie that they forgot they had added, or there'll be things that they take away. A lie will die at some point, but the truth lives forever. Just wait it out. And like Meghan said, 8 years is a long time. It is. It is, Meghan. And it's a shame that you even had to wait 8 minutes for the truth to come out. That's just the world we live in, but I can't stand it. And I'm so glad that you have continued to thrive in spite of all of it. You shouldn't have to, but I'm glad that you do.
Well, and it's also very refreshing to hear a woman in business say that. We are trained as young girls to not talk about money. We are trained as young girls that it's very gauche to talk about finances. But that's a part of life.
Well, that's what keeps us out of making all the money.
Fair.
Now, it's so funny because I literally just watched the Sex and the City episode discussing money.
I'm uncomfortable with this conversation. We shouldn't be talking about money.
Why not? We talk about everything else.
People are funny about money. Like Richard.
And that is a real thing. People really feel that way. I remember even just growing up, I handed somebody in my family at home who's a person I lived with. I handed her back money from the store, like her change. And she was like, don't hand me money in front of people. I'm like, $7.02 should not have you beside yourself this way. Or even opening my graduation cards when I graduated high school, and opening my cards and immediately being told, don't show how much money each person gave you because they might be in the room. And I'm like, well, they gave it to me in a card. And they were like, no, don't do that, because then other people might start asking them to borrow money. And I'm like, it's my graduation day. So I say that from like little small examples of just how taboo money can be in your day to day. But as far as learning about credit and things like that, the most I was taught growing up was protect your credit. What does that mean? What is credit? Like, I'm 7 years old. Like, what is credit? What do you mean by that? Like, I have a credit at the cafeteria lady. She let me take that honey bun, and she said I owed her 7 cents. But like, I don't know what credit is. And like, I would just be given these broad strokes of advice, but it really didn't apply to anything. I didn't have anywhere to compartmentalize it or apply it to. So I would just be like, okay, when I get grown, don't mess up credit. And I didn't understand it. It wasn't until my late 20s that I really started learning about making money. Obviously, I knew how to protect myself and how to store money, but I didn't learn how to make my money make money, or invest, or just high yield accounts and money market accounts. And like, I didn't learn about any of that stuff until my late 20s, when I took a job in the finance department at an IT business, an IT managed services business. And in that department, I learned so much. I mean, it was just a year of absorbing information to apply to this business that I also applied at home. And it worked out. But I think about just having that one-off experience and learning about not just the value of money, but how money can be used as a tool and as an asset, and applying that logic and applying those principles to my home life, and making my money not just sit and wait on me, make my money get to work. And so I had to learn that because of a one-off employment experience. And then of course I read Delivering Happiness by Tony Hsieh. It's one of my favorite business books, especially where customer service is concerned. But in that, he talks about how he built Zappos and how he used money as a tool, not just as security, but he used it and made it work for him and to build his business and really bet on himself. And I learned a lot about money working for me, not me working for money. And I feel like I had some really unique experiences in the wake of so many gaps that I felt like I was catching up, and it took me a long time to do so. And now I love talking about money. I love learning about money. I learned about the debt snowball. That's how I got out of student loan debt. Like, I had to learn about that. That's how I got out of extreme situations. And then I parlayed that and got on into some more comfortable places and was able to get ahead. But had I been able to have those same facts at 19 instead of 29, who knows what could have happened? But thankfully I did get them at 29. So the idea that people should be discussing money, especially women, absolutely, because how else are we going to be part of those conversations? How else are we going to feel more secure or advocate for ourselves? It wasn't until my mid-30s that I negotiated a salary. Every other time, I'd been lucky to, every time I asked for something, they would give me $5,000 more than that. That was the trend. My first 3 jobs, whatever I asked for, they gave me more. Anyway, there are so many strategies to negotiating and talking about money and being part of the conversation. And the more that we shush that conversation, the less we get out of it. Just like Emma Grede said, when you don't talk about things that you want, you don't get them. And we know what example she used, which I found that to be so funny. I was so ready for the camera to pan to Meghan after she said, it's just like sexual gratification. I was like, what is Meghan doing right now? Because I know she's like, girl, I can't even talk about business. Ain't nobody talking about this with you. Yes, women should feel comfortable talking about sex to the capacity that they're comfortable. And I feel like that's for everybody. I'm a notoriously private person when it comes to stuff like that. People want to share with me, fine. But no. No, I feel like people should discuss topics like that at their discretion. And I love how Emma flowed right on in and out of conversation about it and moved on. And Meghan was sitting there cracking up laughing. And so was I. That was such a funny moment in the interview. When did you learn to talk about money? If you have at all, do you feel comfortable talking about money? Have you seen the Sex and the City episode where they discuss money? And if so, who did you most align with? Miranda, Samantha, Charlotte, or Carrie, where were you on that spectrum then and now, if you're old enough to answer that part of the question? And do you have any shame related to discussing money? Let me know in the comment section below. So next, I want to talk about other little parts of the interview that just stuck out to me that I want to jump on. The balance between showing up at home and for yourself or being ambitious. I love the way this conversation played out. It was very clear that they were both on the same side, but in different ways. I loved how Emma was very clear, like, I am just not the volunteer person, but I will make lunches and that makes me happy. And Meghan was like, I want all of it. And I love how they were able to agree on a lot of that, disagree on a lot of that, and still support each other. There was no judgment. I really wish we could have more conversations like that, not just amongst women, but amongst people about preferences. Now, when there is a very clear right and wrong, I don't think that those are things we should be middle of the road on. But when it comes to preferences of how you go about supporting yourself or your family or whatever, and how you show up, I think it's a wonderful thing when you can hear several different sides of that conversation or several different preferences. And people don't have to necessarily align with you. Just like Meghan said, if that doesn't work for you, that's okay. If it works for me, that's for me. That's okay. And that's all. That's kind of my whole thing. I am a to each their own type of person, almost to a fault, because sometimes I don't give a damn what people do. People will be telling me something and I won't have an opinion whatsoever because I'm so hell-bent on not judging. And people have to explicitly ask me for an opinion before I even create one, let alone share one. And so when she said, if that doesn't work for you, that's fine. And I completely agree. Seeing that happen amicably and in a supportive environment, that's what we should be seeing more examples of, because it's gotten all too easy to hop in a comment section and whine and complain and attack and troll. It has gotten too easy for people, knowing that they can remain faceless and anonymous, to get online and be the worst version of the worst version of the worst person they've ever met. Delete. Delete, because people will park it in your comment section and just let off every bit of misery they've ever embodied. And you kind of have to let them have that. You don't have to engage, and I'm not drinking your poison. I'm going to reject that. I won't accept every invitation to a fight. She talked about bringing the playfulness with her, no matter what, still being playful, still having fun. I love that, because you don't always have to be so serious. You can absolutely bring the most fun sides of you and still be a real good businesswoman. You can still be astute in one area and fun in another, and you can bring them all. Everybody don't have to be sitting around with top hats and long beards. We can be fun. I also like that Emma Grede shared that she makes Thanksgiving dinner. She blends her Thanksgiving meal and she makes food from home, but she also makes, and when she said greens and sweet potato pie, you making soul food. Okay, Emma. Now, I was laughing at that because I was like, now, Emma, now you done said it. I got to taste it. I want to taste Emma's greens, because that is my specialty. I can make a pot of greens. Now, there's a lot of things that, like biscuits, that humble me. Making biscuits from scratch humbles me every time. I'm just not good at it. I know every time my grandmama observes me making biscuits, she just, say a silent prayer, because how did it miss me so bad? And so when she said greens, I said, okay, Emma, I need a taste test, because you talking about greens, you're talking hot shit. I got to know. So anyway, that really impressed me. I'm like, okay, this Thanksgiving, if she posts her spread, I have to see what her greens at least look like. Another moment from this episode, or from this interview, was Meghan talking about the Meghan effect. And I love it. She didn't say the Meghan effect. I guess when it's coming from Meghan, it's implied, but she just said the effect. And I love how she talked about making that useful. That's something we've heard her describe or discuss before, is if I'm going to have all this attention, I may as well point to something that's important to me. I may as well use it for good. So she was very intentional about the brands that she backed and that she promoted, so that the people who needed the help and needed the boost got what they needed. And it was in alignment with not only her value system, but her style. So it covered a lot of ground. There was a lot of intersections, a lot of contributors to that one intersection that she checked off for that Meghan effect. And it makes sense. That's why a lot of people connect with what she does. Authenticity. And authenticity before it was popular, might I add. I love that Emma Grede was like, now people want authenticity. Now people want genuine things. But let's be very clear. At the time of the Meghan effect, that wasn't on anybody's mind. Meghan was just simply being Meghan. So she wasn't portraying authenticity or being genuine. She was just being Meghan. And look at how people responded. Look at how people connected. Thank you so much for watching the SharionSade YouTube channel. I appreciate you watching my content. If you haven't already, please don't forget to go ahead and like this video by hitting the thumbs up. Please don't forget to subscribe by hitting the subscribe button. And don't forget to comment along the way. If you feel so inclined, please don't forget to share so that more people can find us. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Now let's get back to the video.
Hello everybody, my name is Yanni Brooks, your Miss Juneteenth Northeast Texas. I am so happy to announce that I will be advancing to the Miss Texas Juneteenth pageant this July. I am so incredibly grateful for your helpful donations and generous support. Thank you so much for being a part of this journey as I compete to bring home the crown. Please feel free to use this link to make a donation. Thank you.
And to take my time. Someone else's urgency is not my urgency. They understand that this is my vision. The fact that you can feel when I am involved in something. And the fact that they trust my final judgment is great on what I want to put out there. But the analogy I say is don't bake the cake without me. It all matters. And also just the customer service experience. That is your one-on-one interaction with the people that are supporting your brand. I want you to feel the way you would feel if in the same spirit of hospitality, if you were a guest in my home.
So I have to talk about the interview itself. I felt like Grede did a wonderful job of clearing the space for Meghan to simply answer her questions and really fully realize her thoughts and fully develop whatever story she wanted to tell and follow her train of thought no matter where Meghan was taking us. And that's not something I can say all the time for every interviewer. A lot of interviewers interrupt to the point where it is grating on the nerves. It drives me nuts to be listening to an interview and the person that they're talking to cannot speak, or they do speak and they're getting cut off every 10th word, and it can be a lot. And something that Grede did a great job of was letting Meghan talk. Another platform that does a wonderful job interviewing people is the Friend Zone podcast. It's got Dustin Ross, it's got Asante, it's got Hey Friend Hey, and they have one of the best podcasts I've ever listened to. I freaking love them. But when they interview people, they do a wonderful job. One time they interviewed Don Richard, and the way they let that conversation unfold is wonderful. So I love that. Grede does the same thing. She allows the conversation to unfold, and that's why she had really good follow-up questions and follow-up conversation. She was able to pepper in stories of her own, and it was a nice ping pong. It was an actual conversation, and it was actual dialogue. It wasn't just hard-hitting questions. We're going to get the deets from Meghan. She felt comfortable answering questions, and that is absolutely due to the environment and the host. It seemed like they had a good rapport anyway. And I love that Meghan is going to show up authentically. That's why she makes a really good guest to get. If you can get Meghan, it's great because she's going to answer the question you ask her. And I love that even in this interview, she said, if something makes her uncomfortable, she'll just tell you. There's so many different ways that you can benefit from being in connection with people who are direct. There is nothing like working with a direct person. I am a direct person. I'm not rude, but I am direct. I love when my no mean no and my yes mean yes, and I can talk to somebody and I know I'm getting the same. There is nothing more valuable to me other than integrity and character than being direct. I cannot stand someone saying something and me having to think twice, because the way my anxiety is set up. But when you have somebody in front of you, let them talk. Somebody who drives me up a wall with this is Kevin Hart. I love him otherwise. I love me some Kevin Hart. But when he is interviewing people, he is going to cut you off every 3 words. He is going to get in there and cut you off. And it can be very distracting and frustrating for a viewer like myself. Overstimulation is real. And when people are talking and you cut them off, I can't listen to that long term. And Grede did a good job for the most part of not interrupting too much. She interrupted a couple of times, but she got us back on track, and that's really all you can ask. So she paced really well. Someone who's taken a lot of heat for their interviewing skills is Jennifer Hudson. I was really surprised by that because she's got the spirit tunnel and people love it. And I just think she's a likable person in general. She's just easy to root for. I really like her. Her whole career has been so fun to watch. But yeah, interviewing, I think she needs a couple of training courses and some crash courses and somebody that can help her. And I think she's going to be great. I think she's going to be wonderful. I just think she just needs a little help. And there's an adjustment period for most people. What I will say is when Eddie Murphy is in front of you, do that crash course before you talk to Eddie the Murphy. That's top dog. That woman was listening to him talk and wasn't hearing a word. Just no lights on behind the eyes. She was just like, so they getting married? Well, they elope. So they getting married? You gonna sing? Well, they already got married. Are you singing? They've already gotten married. Did you sing? Jennifer! But another interview moment that still lives in my head rent-free that I did not see anybody talk about. Thankfully, it slid under the radar. But when Sherry Shepherd was interviewing the cast of The Piano Lesson, one of my favorite movies of 2024, Sherry Shepherd could not stop flirting with John David. It was so distracting. At first, it was funny. And he was such a class act about it. He handled it well. But at first, it was funny. And then it was like, can somebody in her earbud say, do not compliment this man again? Do not flirt with this man again. He is a Washington, so obviously they keep their business out of the street. That man can have a whole wife and kids and we wouldn't know. But what I will say is if he did have a wife and kids, girl, you hit the jackpot because he is handsome. But also, leave this man alone. Like, you're there to do a job. Like, one joke is okay, but he did not look comfortable. He looked polite. But he didn't look comfortable. But like, interviews are a time where you can ask questions and you can get the story or whatever they're there to promote. And even in that interview, she barely asked them anything pertaining to the actual movie. There were a few questions, but more so it was just like, y'all are Washingtons. You're your daddy's sons. And it was like, lady, this is an impeccable movie. And you could talk to them about August Wilson. Like, there's so much here. And you could also talk to John David about being on Broadway in this same production and the relationship between Samuel Jackson and his wife and the show and Denzel. And like, there was so many different questions that could have been asked. And she was just like, John David with your fine ass. But it is a skill and it takes practice. It takes practice and it takes pacing. It takes intention. And Emma Grede nailed it. She did a wonderful, wonderful job. I also appreciate that she talked to Meghan about business, about her aspirations, about her ambitions, about her goals. We got to hear about Meghan in this era. Sure, there was here and there reference, whatever, but we got to see and hear Meghan. And we also got to hear, see, and experience Meghan, the entrepreneur, the founder, the businesswoman. And we've gotten glimpses of her. We've gotten tidbits. We've gotten sneak peeks and behind the scenes. But it was wonderful to just have an hour and a half of Meghan talking about, this is what I've been doing. This is the intention behind it. This is where I'm coming from. This is what I've learned. It's great. I also love that she asked her questions about Confessions of a Female Founder. And I didn't touch on any of those questions simply because it was things that we kind of already discussed when we recapped Confessions of a Female Founder. So if you haven't seen any of my recaps, feel free to go check them out. But I didn't want to cover any of the same ground. The only thing is, and I fully support Meghan in this, and I get it, is we might not be getting a season 2 of Confessions of a Female Founder. It might be a limited series, like it might just be a one-off, or we might just have to wait for another year or a couple of months or what have you. We don't know. And it's because she's taking a beat to focus on As Ever, and she had to prioritize and focus based on her priorities. And I liked how she walked us through that decision and what went into that decision. She wasn't trying to be mysterious or ambiguous. She was just like, you know, I did it and it was great, but I do need to focus here. This is what's calling my attention. And so when I get a chance to get back to that, I might get back to it. And when I said this a couple of days ago about when we don't know exactly what's happening next, we still trust that what we're getting, it's going to mean something and it's coming from a good place. And that's why we're just along for the ride. So if anybody's giving her guff about that, I'm gonna have to come see you. Let me stop. Nobody, I don't need people thinking Meghan done told me to go be her bodyguard. She's gonna sue me. Quit telling people you gonna come see them on my behalf. No, I'm not gonna come see you. I can't even get out of the bed. How far can I get? But no. I love that Meghan has one of the most united, but also loving and warm and welcoming and considerate support bases and fan bases and now client bases and or customer bases in the world. Like, they really ride, or y'all really ride for Meghan, and nobody's gonna be pressuring her about her timeline. We're gonna, one, enjoy it when she gives it to us, but two, the thing about media is that you can just always revisit. I still revisit archetypes all the time. I still revisit With Love Meghan. I told y'all, Saturday mornings, me and With Love Meghan are here, especially when I'm making my big country style breakfast. It's kind of the only thing you can be watching when you make that. Like, when I make steaks, I watch the movie The Menu. Don't know why. It just feels like the movie to watch when you're making steaks. When it comes to breakfast or brunch, With Love Meghan, any episode, let's go. So I'm going to support her, but I'm also going, and I'm going to be patient, but I'm also going to enjoy the content we already have. We have a lot. There is a lot to dissect about this interview, which is why this video is coming out a day late, because I wanted as much time as I could to truly give my thoughts. And since it takes forever to set up in my room where I'm on bed rest, and it took me forever to do my makeup because I'm so tired. When you've been resting a lot, you just lose energy quick. I've been, recovering from surgery. And so it took me forever to even do my makeup today. So I said, I'm going to have a long, thoughtful video. So that's all I have for y'all today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you haven't already and you feel so inclined, please don't forget to go ahead and like, subscribe, share. Thanks to everyone who donated to my niece's pageant campaign. She is excited. Her headshots got released. I'm going to post them on Facebook for those of you who follow. Thank y'all so much for your support, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.